What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and there's some exciting news going on in the world of Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I don't need to tell you all that Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, the new Magic the Gathering D&D crossover set of Magic cards, is coming out. There's been a lot of push and a lot of promo for it recently, so you might have seen a lot of new card reveals and things like that. Again, I haven't played Magic the Gathering in like 20, 25 years at this point, so it's not really for me. I will say, having read some of the cards and the fact that there are legitimate like D20 rolls and seemingly traversals of dungeons, which I don't know how that works in the mechanics of the card game, seems interesting enough to maybe let me buy a booster box and just unbox it for you guys and figure out if it's good or bad. I don't know. But they're actually releasing a series of adventures, and it's kind of an ongoing multiple part one-shot series thing. And the first episode or first series of it dropped today, called In Scarlet Flames. So I thought we could take a look at it and review it. And you know, we're not going to go through the adventure ad nauseum, but I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. It is free. So hey, that's free D&D content for you, which is always good. And it's interesting. It's got like a library feel, and it's set in the Forgotten Realm, so you can possibly mention things like Succumber and the Red Wizards of Thay and stuff. So you could supplant this into your own campaign or just run it as a one-shot. Before we talk about that, since we're going to be talking about immersion and you know, libraries and things like that, I wanted to talk to you about the sponsor for today's video, and that is Describe. So if you're a Dungeons & Dragons fan and a fan of the channel, you've probably heard me talk about them for a while, but if you're a Magic the Gathering fan only coming and checking this out for the first time, welcome. Describe is an online tool that allows you to generate or pull from existing box text, descriptive box text, to improve your games and allow you to not have to do all of the thinking behind making things immersively descriptive. You can see they have a variety of new places they've added. They have descriptive text for places, monsters, spells, and characters. They're in the process of adding items, planes of existence, and dialogue. And given that we were going to mention that there's kind of a magic library, I thought we could read the magic library thing here, which again is written by Matt Cernet, which, if those of you are familiar, has been a member of Wizards of the Coast on the D&D team in the past. So, if a school is a temple of knowledge, then surely this is heaven. Books by the hundred and scrolls by the thousands stuff each rank of shelves. Floating lights, like the ghosts of lanterns, bob through the stacks. But this is not the only sign of magic. Some shelves stand wreathed in flames that do not burn or shadowed by an unnatural darkness. Others seemed encased in ice or wrapped in vines. These are illusions, surely. But why? And then a recent one, I'm not going to read it, but I'll show you they added one for adamantine armor. Here's one for elementals. You've got a variety of different things. So anyway, you can go ahead and head over to Describe. There's a link in the description below. That's a referral link, so it shows that you're coming from Nerd Immersion. If you use the coupon code Nerd Immersion, you'll get 10% off your first purchase. So let's head over back to the In Scarlet Flames sort of article here. This is on the Magic the Gathering. I saw it posted on their Twitter first. It took me to this website where I could click this link to download the adventure. And if I click on here, here it is. So it's done up in a very, you know, the traditional D&D style. We can see here, I do like the little scale bits on like the corners. It's just a purely layout thing, but I very much like it. And what's interesting probably most of all is it's set for 8th level characters. We've had a lot of these kind of freebie stuff that we get from WotC, and they're usually level 1, maybe level 5 if we're lucky. This is for 4 to 6 characters that are level 8. So this is a significant power boost. So again, if you're a Magic the Gathering player probably coming over here for the first time, while this might be good, it might not be the one for you, because 8th level is going to give you a lot of tools to play with. But if you can master that, you should have no problem playing any other D&D campaigns in the future. And funnily enough, it references the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. As I often state, the book that time forgot, the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, the one that existed when they didn't know what they wanted to do with future books. Anyway, but it talks about the High Moors region of Faerun, and it's why it references the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. So, basically here, I'll read it. This is episode 1, so again, I don't know if they've officially said how many episodes. In my head, it's 3. It might be more than that. But basically, this is sort of the overview of the adventure and kind of gives us an idea of where we're going to go. So, 2 Red Wizards of Thay have undertaken a secret mission in the High Moors. They're searching for something or someone, whatever their goal is. Well, it's bad news, right? They're Red Wizards of Thay. So even the mercenaries who escorted them into the wilderness earlier agree someone should stop them. Pursuing the Red Wizards leads the adventurers to a barrow mound in the wild grasses of the High Moors. At the Barrow, they discover the remnants of a wizard's sanctum, the magical library I referenced earlier. The fate of its lore and treasures is up to the characters. Without caution, things may get out of hand. There's no new magic items that I saw. There are 2 new stat blocks in here, which are pretty cool, and a really cool, like, perspective map as we scroll down. So it is 14 pages. Again, I'll say, folks, it's free, so consider that. You know, it's a free 8th level adventure, so something to maybe throw in the back pocket to have if you need to run a one-shot when you're not prepared, or, you know, if you're doing conventions or local game stores, maybe you can pull this up and be like, hey, let's give it a shot. Everybody roll up 8th level characters and we'll play through this, see if it's any good. So it follows pretty much the standard adventure sort of format that Wizards of the Coast has developed to this point. We're going to get a little bit of the background, the story of the area we're going to, a couple of adventure hooks that are going to explain why we're going to go there. Now, that primer I gave you earlier is pretty much what you need to know. This will give you a lot more information about the Red Wizards and who the wizard was who created the Barrow that you're going to visit. But ultimately, that's a lot of fluff plot stuff that if you're going to play it, I don't want to spoil it for you. And then we have a couple of sections here breaking it down into the different parts. So we're going to start in Salisbury, which is a village in the Sword Coast, or on the Sword Coast. So again, there are references to this in other books. You could go to the Forgotten Realms Wikipedia page and find a plethora of knowledge about Salisbury. And then there's a little bit of lore there, and it says, oh, and I also like this. It is a 6-hour hike into the High Moors, about 18 miles southeast of Salisbury. So we actually get some travel information, which is nice. And then we have the Wizard's Barrow, which is, again, sort of where the main focus of the game is. This gives you some opportunity here in Salisbury to flex a little bit of roleplay mechanics. If the party wants to do a little, you know, maybe they're meeting together for the first time, maybe you want to establish the kind of the lore of the game, do a little exposition dump, have a shop for people to do buy and sell and trade items, that kind of a thing. And then the main crux of the adventure is in part 2, the Wizard's Barrow. And as you can see, it pretty much rolls right into it, because Salisbury is not much here, and then we're already in to the sanctum, as it were, here right off. So it does mention a lot about trapped steels, and what it is referencing is the part of a plant. It's called a steel. So it says the winds and chill and the chill from outside make their way into this chamber. The remains of wooden stools and racks of rotten spears suggest this was a guard station once. A squat steel, about 3 feet tall, stands in the center of the chamber, marked with a single deeply etched glyph of bright blue. A silver medallion hangs from the top of the steel, partly blocking the glyph. So that's that box text I just read. That's what I was kind of referencing when I was talking about Describe. You would have to come up with something like that. They might have a location or something for your own game where you could suggest, and they'll do something like that. Then it kind of goes on to talk about how you'll see this trapped steels are a pretty common thing. Right? The Barrow's trapped steels were crafted with effects, not unlike Glyph of Warding. At least I think it's supposed to be like a steel. Is there another word? Does steel mean something that's not tied to the part of a plant? A central core of the stem and a root of a vascular plant, or a steel or occasionally stela were derived from Latin. Oh, okay, it's not. I was thinking the plant. Turns out I'm wrong. I guess in structure, or in, like it says, starts from Latin, is a stone or wooden slab, generally taller than it is wide, erected in the ancient world as a monument. The surface of the steel often has text, ornamentation, or both. They may be inscribed and carved in relief or painted. So that's probably what they're not referencing, although in my mind, not knowing what that was, I thought this was a cool plant dungeon, and I kind of like that better. But feel free to run with it however you want. Important thing is pretty much all of them are trapped, and they have some sort of glyph or thing that is a magical trap of some kind. So in this particular one, I think it sets off a dex save, and it does some lightning damage. Lights stuff up on fire as well. And then you're kind of traveling through, and you'll see there is treasure scattered throughout, right? Here's golden oil lamps, porcelain wares, and stuff worth 140 gold. We can see a lost a painting of a noble that's worth 12,000 gold if you can get it out preserved. Moving on, we have just, again, you can see all the blue box text. That's the descriptive text. If you're unfamiliar, or you're a Magic fan. Blue text in these boxes is what we colloquially refer to as box text, which is descriptive text to set the scene or the mood. Things that are in bold and in black are usually things you need to pay attention to. For this, the big instances is those trapped steals. Well, or maybe it's stelae. If it's the I know steel is the word that you use if you're referencing a plant. Maybe it's stelae if it's the architecture. I don't know. Either way, somebody who's linguistics and knows it better than I do, please explain it to me. And then we can see some more treasure. There's a little bit here about collapsing floors that they can fall out, and there's ways to go about dealing with that, which is good. Changing terrain and changing things up is good. And it reminds me of an Indiana Jones style adventure. We're sneaking into the ancient temple. It's trapped. We got to deal with all of the different things. And I think that that's pretty cool. This definitely is an adventure that I would love to... I would say I'd love to play, but I'm reading it out now, and I've reviewed it already, so I'm probably not going to play it because the secret and the mystery is gone. But this could make a great little thing to insert into your own campaign if you need something. You want to throw a little magic library thing randomly as an interlude while you work on future plans for what the party's going to do. We have a lab chamber. We have a catacomb here. Here's the grand library. Some nice art here as well. I like this. I guess that's maybe a light spell being cast there. Looking at this, and it reminds me too kind of like a Library of Alexandria thing where you have this magic library full of all this cool stuff, but then it starts to fire spreads around the corners. It gets set on fire and go off. You can see there's a fire spirit here named Exul, which is the new elemental monster that we have stat block for at the end. And then we can also, there's teleportation circles here as well. It says 2 circles used to serve the chamber and the wizards who kept this collection. The northern circle has been damaged. The southern circle leads to an abandoned townhouse in Waterdeep. The circle there is beneath the floorboards in the attic. See part 3 next about what to do after that. And you can see there's a ton of stuff here. The collection's worth 5,000 gold pieces, and there are a bunch of different scrolls, one of Chain Lightning, one of Odaluk's Resilient Sphere, and one of Wall of Stone. There's a whole section here about how to fight the fire and specific rules for the collections being damaged based on how much HP the mage's collection suffers due to fire damage. And I always like kind of fun little mini games like that. And let's see. It says, between the collapsing stone, errant lightning, spreading flames, things can get messy here in a hurry. Added Malavar, Exul, and other elementals, and things go beyond hectic. The player's choice might, well, make things easier or more difficult for them, and that's fair. All these moving parts are here to create options and unexpected interactions. If circumstances do turn against the adventurers, it can be dire depending on the monsters involved. A battle in the library can become an encounter of deadly magnitude. Keep in mind that defeating the adventurers isn't a goal of the NPCs or monsters here. Combat isn't an essential outcome. Anyone might be driven to flee if things go sideways, even the elementals. If the library burns to ash, then it does. You can see we move on to the procession hall. There's some crypts where there's some mummies in there with some more gold and treasure and things. And we move into part 3. What do we do next, right? So the adventurers may have treasure to sell and things. We can go back to Sacomber or Waterdeep and sell our things and make some money, maybe buy some magic items or trade things. A little bit about what to do with the library, the collection, how you can do something with that, who you could give it to or sell it to. And then it says, the following items of lore are important for the next adventure, but much about those old wizards is left for you to decide, and they give you a little bit about the other wizards. Again, I'm not going to spoil too much there because it's going to roll into the next adventure. We have a little bit of the teleportation circles, and it says the missing villains, who are you, the people, the red wizards you were chasing. Tyreus and Morwenna magically transported to out to one of Tyreus's, I think, hidden sanctums. You got what they wanted. Magic tome. For now, they're working with their magic, and we haven't seen them. They'll pop up again. It says this section details this. So we have Malavar, who is one of the red wizards of Thay, and we can see that he is a conjurer. And we can see he is a conjuration wizard because he has benign transportation, which is something that conjuration wizards get. And we have a variety of conjuration spells here. As you can see, Evar's Black Tentacles, Conjure Elementals. So what they were saying was if you're getting into that big fight, he could summon more Elementals. And then the big one here is Exul. This is the new kind of stat block we have here. With his skin aglow like searing coal, a beard like sheafs of burnt paper, and his hair billowing like smoke, Exul's physical form does nothing to hide his elemental nature. He was born as a spirit of earth and flame. This physical manifestation is a dalliance of mere decades, he hopes. Exul serves Tyreus, not out of loyalty, but due to a Geas spell. Exil bears Tyreus only a little ill will, however, occasional arrangements with mortal wizards are no great hassle. Exil resents and avoids the pains of the Gia spell, meaning going against that. Has no intention of dying for him or his mortal ambitions. So it is an elemental, has a decent chunk of hit points, 200, it can fly, natural armor, immunity to fire, as it is kind of a fire elemental. If he dies, he disintegrates, leaving behind only the equipment, things he might have been carrying. He has spellcasting, detect magic at will, comprehend languages and tongues 3 times a day, and then once a day, he can also conjure elemental, either earth or fire, so you could have both of the enemies in that one area conjuring elementals. Invisibility, major image, plane shift, and wall of fire. And he can make 2 hand axe attacks, which do 2d6 plus a d6 fire, or hurl flame, which has a 120-foot range and does 5d6 damage. Here's what I was telling you about that cool map that sort of shows off what things, I like how it says not to scale, but basically it shows off sort of the side view and the top view. High, quick, and dirty maps that you could either print out and blow up or easily replicate hand-drawn or maybe using some form of terrain. And then it says right here, want to continue the adventure, episode 2, the hidden page. I assume that has something to do with the tome, either something that you acquired or the tome that the Red Wizards took. So there you go, folks. This is pretty exciting. You know, this reminds me of early last year around March when we got like the 10 or 11 weeks of free content every week when Wizards of the Coast realized we'd be stuck inside for the pandemic, so they were releasing free D&D adventures and content for, I think it was like 10 weeks or so they did it, and then they just kind of abruptly stopped. This kind of reminds me of that. I'm excited. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's worth checking out. Again, it's free. Download it now, though, because you never know if these things are going to disappear and you won't be able to find it later. So let me know your thoughts. Are you excited about this? Are you a D&D fan who's just like, hey, you know what? For the first time, I know there's a lot of people that don't like the Magic the Gathering crossovers because they're like, I'm a D&D fan. I want more D&D content. I don't want Magic the Gathering content because I don't know those worlds. But what's interesting for you now is because the Magic the Gathering content is D&D content, the adventures, even though being released by Magic, are set in the Forgotten Realms, so they're more D&D. And then again, if you're a Magic fan, welcome. Something I'll bring up because it seems to either completely polarize the community. Both of these stat blocks have alignments, if that matters to you. They're both chaotic evil, folks. I said it before. I'll show you right here. They're both chaotic evil. Again, I don't care about alignment in 5e. I think it's kind of a throwaway thing. It was just sort of a legacy from old editions because it's something you had to keep. I also imagine it will disappear when we get into 6th edition. But yeah, all of the newer books have removed alignments from all of the monsters, which I've seen a lot of people say this is ridiculous. How do I know how to run the monster? But I've also seen people like it the other way, saying like, oh, I like that, you know, these new monsters aren't hardcore evil or hardcore good. They live in a world of gray, and me as the DM, I can figure that out. Now, again, you always could do that, but some people need the agency in a written text to feel like they can do that. It's not for everybody, but some people don't like to rebel against what's written because they feel like that's the rules they have to abide by. So again, alignments are back. The one's a humanoid, so I could see that, but the other one's an elemental, and it has an alignment, so take that with a grain of salt. Thank you, Describe, for sponsoring this video. Be on the lookout for more content of me over the next week and a half or so, as I have all this pre-recorded stuff as I wait, as I enjoy myself on vacation. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.